Good morning everyone, Art of Patience Metal Fab, and today I'm out in the shop talking all about the Group B Renault rally car. Now you've seen a couple of episodes on this, and if you haven't, I'll throw them in the description so you can play a little catch up. And in the last episode, we pretty much finalized the cage. You can see it's in, the harness bar is one of the last pieces, along with some gussets that need to get tacked in. Now this episode's gonna be at least starting with some reinforcement pieces. We've got all of these plates right here, and it is a puzzle right now. We don't really know where everything goes in. So Gary and Andrew are trying to figure that out, and ultimately we're gonna be welding those in for extra reinforcement on this. Gary, I see you brought in some of your erector set pieces from when you were a kid. What do we got going on over here?
Funny, because that's exactly what I thought when I opened the bag up too. So these are actually some of the rarest of the rare type stuff we got here. These are the actual chassis support pieces that Renault designed. What's really cool about this car, and we keep going back to it, is the fact that we have access to just some really cool documentation that most people don't. Again, this is the FIA homologation paperwork that Renault would have submitted to show the modifications to the car. Perfect example right here. We got this piece. You can see it resembles it there. I'll show you exactly where it goes.
Andrew already got a head start on the rear strut towers. You can see the driver's side is mostly done. He's got these bottom brackets in, just not welded quite yet. Same story with the top one, but this was a little bit more involved. He had to do some cutting before it was able to slot in. So the driver's one is mostly complete. Now we're moving on to passenger, and then eventually we'll weld these up and move on to all the other brackets throughout the car. That reinforcement kit that we got was pretty extensive. It had a lot of the pieces that we needed. You saw most of them get mounted on the inside. But the one big thing we were missing, according to the photos that we had, was reinforcement on the inside of the strut tower right here. So what Andrew's done is cleaned up some of the sound deadening material and then put a little steelite coating on this so it's still weldable. And he actually created some custom mounts. He's welding them on the passenger side right now, so I'll show you what those look like. Then we'll step over on this side and finish this up. As I mentioned in the last episode, there is a lot of spatial constraint in this car. After all, it's tiny and the driver and the seats are pretty large. So in order to accommodate, we've had to move them outboard a little bit, which means the steering column has had to be modified. It was offset by about 2 inches or so. And in order to center it, what we're doing is we're using some of the OE components along with a custom shaft here. So right now Andrew is lining everything up. We had the owner of the car in for measurement, and now we just have to chop it in order to fit. While Brian was in here, we also had a measure for the pedal assembly. We're gonna have to do an aftermarket pedal box in here for the same reason as the steering column, because it's slightly offset, but also because of the length of the driver. Essentially with that seat in place, he's gonna have a hard time using the OEM pedals without them being offset further in. So by the time it's all said and done with the seat, with the custom mounting, the steering column, and the pedal assembly, this is going to be specifically tailored towards him. There's that steering column. Andrew made a really quick work of it. It's actually hard for me to come back here and grab footage, but I got what I could so you can see the process come together. But essentially it's hard mounted in with a little bit of adjustment, like I showed you, articulating up and down. And then the final thing we have to do is get Brian in here for fitment. So what's the last step here?
So this steering wheel is actually for the mock-up. The actual hub for his quick release is right here. You can see that it's not welded on yet, and we've got some length left in this. So when Brian comes in, we'll actually size this to him and his steering wheel, and then we can cut this and weld the hub on. And at that point, it'll be all done.
And we keep mentioning this is a really tiny car, and we keep putting stuff into it. We've got the full cage now, we've got the steering column, we've got these big seats, and then a big driver at the end of it. And so you've got a lot of things in a small package. This has to be a quick release in order for him to even get in this car. Since we've gotten all of the measurements that we needed, we stripped out the interior and we're moving on to doing full welding on those reinforcement plates. So Ben is gonna step in, Andrew's gonna be moving on to another project for a bit, and I think this is probably a good way to wrap up this episode. In the next one, we'll start off with Ben doing full welds on all of those mounts that you saw. It's probably gonna be a day or two worth of work. So he's gonna get on that, and then eventually we're coming up to a point where we're gonna have to start tearing that cage out. As you remember, it's just tacked into place. We need to remove it, and then it's going off to blasting. That way they can get in all the nooks and crannies. When it comes back, we're gonna be doing a bit of last minute metal work and then putting that cage in and finalizing it. So we have at least a few more really exciting episodes to come. And then after that, it's a bit of a question mark on where this project is gonna turn. So you guys need to subscribe to our page if you haven't already. Check out the last couple of videos on this car to get caught up if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.